All right, that was quick. That was quick. They got her up out of there. If you seen the thumbnail, you guys know what happened. Welcome to That's a Bet podcast, where we talk about business, entrepreneurship, and technology with a little bit of relevant culture in there. And so in this video, we're going to take a look at the director of Secret Service being fired, terminated, let go, resigning, whatever you want to call it. No more wasting time. Let's get into it.
Elizabeth, President Biden is weighing in. He's released a statement on this. What does he have to say?
Yes, Phil, we just got this statement from President Biden. He's thanking Director Kim Cheadle for her decades of service and says that she selflessly dedicated and risked her life to protect the nation throughout her career there. He adds it takes courage, honor, and it was incredible integrity to take full responsibility for an organization that is tasked with what he calls one of the most challenging jobs in public service. And then he goes on to say that this independent review that he ordered immediately after the assassination attempt on former President Trump will continue, that he looks forward to assessing its conclusions, and he again thanks the director and says he plans to appoint a new director soon. Phil.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you. I want to bring in Donald Mahalik, former Secret Service agent. Donald, let me just ask you, we spoke a short time ago before her resignation, and now that we have her resignation, I'll ask you, does it surprise you? Do you think it needed to happen? And what happens moving forward now for the agency?
It seemed to me that the director was weighing how much of a distraction the calls for her resignation were becoming compared to looking out for the mission and the men and women of the Secret Service. And I think she was probably, in a selfless way, weighing the pros and the cons, and the fact that her calls for resignation were.
If you guys seen the videos that we did the other day, I think it was probably yesterday, if you're watching this right now, you see that they were going in on the director of Secret Service. It's no surprise that she's been let go now.
Becoming more of a distraction, I guess, and her dedication to the agency won out. The last thing I think she would want to have become is a distraction from the agency. The agency is in a very difficult period with the DNC coming up, picking up, J.D. Vance, increasing the vice president's detail, dealing with the tail end of the campaign, and of course, trying to find closure to this investigation. So the last thing I think the director, being her dedication to the agency, would have wanted to be was something that took away from that focus. So I think at the end of the day, she made the right call, and she did the selfless thing for the benefit of the agency.
And Pierre, as we're working through this, since we've gotten her statement, you're actually getting some new reporting from the Department of Homeland Security. What do you have?
We have a statement from Homeland Security, Mayorkas, in which he talks about how he's, quote, grateful to Kim Cheadle for her leadership as the director of the Secret Service and her lifelong devotion to our country. These notes on her behalf lay out that, look, she's had a storied career. She's risen through the ranks, one of the few women to rise to that level within the Secret Service. But that doesn't change the fact that this was a failure. She acknowledged perhaps the worst failure since the assassination attempt on former President Reagan. In that case, you saw the Secret Service director resign within days. Members of Congress basically told her yesterday that they expected her to do so immediately. And I also think that going back to the interview that we had with her last week, on Monday, a week ago, in the interview, I pressed her on whether she would be transparent with the American people and with Congress. And she promised to do so. And I think what Congress laid bare.
If y'all seen those videos that we did yesterday on her being in the congressional hearing, she was definitely not being transparent at all.
Yesterday is that they did not think that she was being transparent enough. And again, I'm not quite sure why the decision was made not to give more detail and simply characterize it. Look, it's a fluid situation. The investigation's ongoing, but this is what we know about this particular question that was central to the story. Why was that building not part of the interior security perimeter? And why was there not more personnel around the building and on top of the building, which had a clear line of sight to the former president? Those are the issues that ultimately became too much to overcome.
Yeah, I want to bring Aaron Katersky in here. And as Pierre points out, I mean, it's every American could see that setup with their own eyes. Everybody said, how could you not have someone on that roof? She couldn't answer that question or wouldn't answer that question, and the buck stopped with her. What did she say in her statement that she...
Y'all think she was made to take the bite, to take the bullet on this one? Do you guys think that there were more? You think more people should be held accountable for this? Should it be other agencies? Because she kept bringing in, people keep talking about the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and Secret Service. So if those different agencies are involved, should there be more people being held accountable, or is it all on Secret Service? Did they just get her to take the bite to bite the bullet? Or are we going to leave it alone in a sense of, you know, making somebody take accountability, or are we still looking for other people to take accountability? It's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out after this.
Released.
She sent it to the workforce of the Secret Service, and she said that the incident in Butler, Pennsylvania does not define the agency, but she said the repeated and bipartisan calls for her resignation would have become a distraction. And she said she didn't want to be a distraction from the great work each and every one of you do towards our vital mission. There were questions about that mission that she could not seemingly answer. But she did reveal some facts that may have been troubling to some of the members of Congress. She said the Secret Service did not know that Thomas Matthew Crooks was on that roof with a gun until just seconds before the gunfire. Yet, local authorities and even people with their own eyes, you know, bystanders in the crowd, seemed to recognize that there was someone with a gun. And why did that message not get to the Secret Service command? Or if it did, why was the former president not delayed in coming out on the stage, or other additional security steps taken? Those were some of the nagging questions that members of Congress could not get answered, to their great frustration.
Yeah, I kept thinking to myself that call is so important. We wear these earpieces in our ears, and so do the Secret Service, so that they could communicate with each other. And for about an hour, they knew. And this was the frustration that we heard.
And I've also been hearing reports that the way the frontline members of Secret Service handled the situation in terms of not rushing Trump out of there. I mean, allowing him to, you know, put his fist up, allowing him to put his shoes on, you know, those were not that was not the proper protocol for them to get him out of there. Now, I obviously don't know what the protocol is, but it makes you wonder, like, why did they not rush to get him out of there faster? You know, I've heard a lot of people ask that question as well. So this may not be over with yet.
Yesterday from the bipartisan group of lawmakers, I want to bring Jay O'Brien in. Jay, the frustration was, you know, that how could this go it was noticed, but how could it not get to Trump's team? They would have paused. Even former President Trump has said this, that on several occasions, whether it's weather or whatever, they say we got to pause for 5-10 minutes. You can't go out there. That could have happened. That didn't happen. That's why the lawmakers where you are on Capitol Hill were so angry. Have you had a chance to speak to anybody since her resignation?
Yeah, we did. We spoke with House Speaker Mike Johnson, who coincidentally was giving a press conference as this news broke. And so I asked the speaker, as he was walking out of this press conference, who was one of the principal voices calling for Kim Cheadle to resign, who made the case to her to resign in person yesterday when they met before her testimony before the House Oversight Committee. I asked him for his reaction. Here's what he said.
I know you mentioned it, Mr. Speaker, but what exactly did you say to her yesterday specifically?
We met in the library before she went out there. I made it clear, as I always do to everyone in these positions, this is not personal, ma'am, but your number one responsibility is performance, and you did not perform. In fact, it was an utter failure, and we almost lost a former president because of it. So accountability begins at the top, and you need to take responsibility. She nodded in agreement and went out and didn't answer the question.
And you heard him there remark on something that I've heard both Republicans and Democrats up here complain about, and Pierre noted it earlier, which is the fact that Director Cheadle was very restrained in her answers yesterday. She kept referencing how recent it was since the attack, how there was an investigation ongoing. And I was getting reaction real time from lawmakers who were in that room texting me saying they were not happy with the answers they were getting, and that lack of happiness clearly only energized those calls for her to resign, which of course resulted in her resignation today.
All right, guys, that was crazy. And one thing that I wanted to point out before we cut it here, it looks like this was bipartisan sentiment. You know, you had Republicans and Democrats both feeling the same exact way about the response of the Secret Service, the accountability being taken by the director, and her resignation. And so hopefully, since there's bipartisan sentiment on this topic, that filters down into the communities, into society, into America, where we can both acknowledge Republicans and Democrats. I'm neither, so I get to say I'm a little bit of Republican, a little bit of Democrat. I'm in the middle, basically. But hopefully we all can get into an agreement with how crazy it was with somebody attempting to take the president's life. But not only that, the failure in Secret Service and really trying to understand what took place and what happened. It's bipartisan sentiment at the top. So hopefully that trickles down into society, into our communities, so that we can get on the same page. Because I've been hearing some people say some wild things. For those of you that have been saying that you're sad or disappointed or upset that the bullet missed, you're crazy. You are flat out crazy if you're one of those people that are saying that you wish the bullet didn't miss. And you bet not, let me calm down. You shouldn't post that information or that sentiment online on social media, because people are being reprimanded at their places of employment for those type of comments. People are being looked down upon in different organizations and different groups because those institutions don't support political violence. So if that's something, that's how you feel, and you are upset that the bullet didn't miss, don't come around me with that. Don't come around me with that energy. Don't come on my channel with that energy. Don't put that in. Don't put that information on your social media, because it could come back to bite you. That's all I'm going to say. So hopefully this video resonated with you. If you've been following this story, make sure you guys go back and check out the videos that we did yesterday with the congressional hearing. If you guys didn't get to catch the Congress people cross-examining the director of Secret Service. As always, make sure you guys check the link in the description for my mastermind community, so you can tap in with us inside my communities and clubs. And I will see you guys in the next video.